everybody. I wanted to share this video that I made about the elements of composition, just showing you different possibilities with composition. So here we go. So what I've done here is I'm just using very simple pieces of construction paper to talk to you a little bit about the elements of design. And, I thought I would just start very simply and talk to remind you that, we have a lot of possibilities out there. But the point of a good design, a point of a design that is successful, rather, is one that keeps your viewer engaged. You want to say something with your art. You want to show somebody something with your art, so you want them to be engaged. So that is the main point here. That's why I really, don't believe much in this set of rules, but more to, follow your own eyeballs to see what actually does work in the real world. So what I've done here is sorry, it's a little bit fuzzy here for a second. Get out of that in a minute. Okay, there we go. So I got one single orange, circle on the piece of yellow. And, what does that suggest to you? When it's smack in the middle, we have a sense of equilibrium. Everything is, focused into the middle of the page. The rest is just empty. So it really draws your eyes smack to the middle. I mean, that isn't a bad thing. It's just, it is a thing to notice, and you can use that to, make what you have to say more compelling for whatever reason. So, that if you want to, make people come to look at your work, with no uncertain, for no uncertain reason, for a very specific reason. Think about the bullseye. Think about the things that like, advertisements and box designs, like for Tide, for example. I mean, there's a reason why people use bullseyes, because our eyes just want to go there. Okay, so beyond the circle in the middle, which is pretty obvious, we have the idea of having a circle coming off of the page. And again, what happens when you have a completely empty page and you have just half a circle? What would be the thing you're saying with that? What about one circle at either end? Again, it's kind of a balance. It's predictable. But as soon as you start moving these circles around the page, they change. Overlapping can change. And when you look at this, for example, what you feel is, too little, maybe the circles represent people, too little people huddled together all by themselves in a great big world. I mean, that is one meaning that this kind of design can give you, and it doesn't really follow the elements of design in a way that, everything is considered. But I mean, things are considered in a more emotional way this way. So if you have something to say about, a lonely child or family or a house in the middle of, the wilderness, you want them to be clumped together with, the feeling of space and, being kind of alone in the universe, then this kind of a design would do that for you. I'm introducing a third circle. So now I have 3, and this one is much, much larger. So what begins to happen when I pull these circles away from each other? The picture plane changes. What happens when you overlap? What happens when, they're so close together? What happens because this is all the way in the corner? So this empty space, we really acknowledge it. I mean, it's something to, if that's part of your design, that's really something to be concerned, with in terms of your content. So here we're adding a 4th circle. But but they're different colors. So your eye does different things with that. An introduction of a pink sort of rectangle type shape, again, overlapping into the red, it changes when you have that pink rectangle in the middle. It kind of divides the whole space. You know, as we talked about, we want to, we crave a relationship, you know, so this is the only thing that's like this in the whole composition, this pink rectangle. You know, that's something that is dividing, and it might be part of the content that you're, you know, putting a group of circles on this side and one on that side, and there's something splitting the picture plane. But if you're not trying to say that, then you might want to reconsider or add another shape like this so that our eye sees something that it can relate to again. So let's just see what that looks like. Get this going. There we go. So now we have an orange, kind of similar slash of a piece of paper. And that feels a little bit more balanced, doesn't it? Because now we have two that are similar. We have the orange repeating. The pink is an anomaly. We haven't used the pink again. So maybe we'll put that aside and just see what happens when we play around with these, you know, very different shapes. The slash and these two circles. Always thinking about how your elements of, you know, of interest on the picture plane are relating to the outside edge, are relating to the other shapes. Right now, this design lacks something. You know, it feels like I want to see another circle over in this side. We've repeated the orange, repeated the red, but you know, we have this sort of separation here. Again, that could be something that you want to say with the work. You know, obviously, it might be that, you know, you're talking about, you know, maybe people or trees or something else, like not just strips of paper. But this is just to say that, you know, what are some of the things that you want to consider if you're trying to say something that might not be, you know, sort of part of the rules of good design, quote unquote. So it depends on how you're using all these things is what the bottom line is. Let's see if we can bring something in to keep working on this design. Here's an orange circle. This is interesting because we have this optical illusion where this orange seems like it's much lighter than the orange over here, doesn't it? And I always love to play with these tricks of vision. I find that they're really, really fun to do. So if I have a chance to put one color on another and then show it by itself, it pleases me no end. So now this is a design that feels like it has a lot of activity, doesn't it? It almost feels like, is that a bat, you know, in a baseball game? Is that the ball that's getting, you know, batted right off of the page? It has a nice feeling of movement about it, which is something that I always strive for. I would much rather have a moving kind of a feeling in my design than one that's very static. But, you know, that again depends on what you're after. Suddenly putting a shape behind this orange slash suddenly changes the design. And again, now we have something that goes off the page, just like we do over here. And it anchors, it tends to anchor the shapes so that the shapes aren't kind of flying away in an unweighted atmosphere, gravityless atmosphere. We have things that kind of visually weight the designs. So, you know, we haven't repeated this pink, but I actually don't mind that it's the only thing there because it repeats the circle feeling of the circles we already have. And it is a piece of variety. You know, it's a variation on the circle that have so far only been orange and red. So I don't mind it. I kind of buy it. What happens when we add some more rectangular shapes? And you know, always the question of, you know, how much is too much? When do you stop? You know, I think that comes more with experience, but you know, you do want to consider resting areas for your eyes. Like, you don't necessarily want to have everything going so visually speedily that it is exhausting to look at. So I think this design has some nice resting areas for the eyes. It's got things going on, but I don't feel crunched anywhere. Oh, introducing another shape. It's pink, so it does relate to my pink shape that I've got down already. But what do I do with it? And as you can see, I'm just kind of looking around, trying to see where it might fit. All right, well, the pink does definitely relate to this other pink shape on the bottom. That's a really good thing. And there is nothing, you know, there's no dark waiting over here. No, there, you know, this red is quite dark, but there's nothing else going on. So I'm about to introduce some more color, and let's see what happens when we do that. We've got blue from the tape that I have over here, and I'm going to try a different kind of shape, a square sort of piece of blue tape that again sort of shifts your focus. I think the focus was up here. Again, we have that fun, you know, change of a color, so that this blue over here looks lighter than it is over here, but we know it's actually the same color. That's because colors really interact with each other. It's really hard to see one all by itself. So now, as you can see, we've got that blue that draws our eyes all over the page, you know, and we are sort of drawn to keep looking around and around and around. Very good, because we really want people to look at what we're doing here. That really works. And now we are bringing a little bit of that red back down into this half of the page. And again, our eyes pick up the orange circle and the orange circle up here. So right now it still is pretty balanced. Let's see what else happens here. I think we're going to bring in some skinny shapes. So again, these skinny shapes, they relate to the rectangle. They can be part of this design because they are repetitions of the other shapes. And so we don't find them, I don't think, too much yet. And they also relate to this slash. And it's always the same things that go off right off the page here. So now we're going to come to using our black. And it's, I did want to use black because I think, you know, it'd be fun to see what happens when you use a very, very strong color, very high contrast to the other things that are down here, to notice what happens when we start to do that. So what I'm pleased with are these channels of yellow that travel through the whole thing because they're the background color. And I feel like, you know, all of this is like the jigsaw puzzle. One can't be there without the other shape being cut in a certain way as well. So it's all important, both the shapes we're adding and the shapes that are already down there. I'm just moving this black shape around to see what happens when I have it sort of back toward the end of this side. This orange is just hasn't been cut yet. That's why it's hanging out there. So just ignore that. That one and the yellow. So we're going to introduce another shape, and that is a star. So what is that like? Let me introduce that. And how does that work? Well, now our eye sees the black of the star and sees the black down here. So I still feel like we're doing okay. And then we have another black shape. Too close, too close. Yeah, I think that black shape needs to be down in that corner somehow. You could ask yourself right now, well, what do you think it needs? Is it better upside down? Is it better sideways? You know, these are all really good questions. And to some extent, you know, there are many, many answers. There isn't just one good design. There are so many. So I think what I'm doing here is experimenting on, you know, having a little bit of this red showing on the other side of the orange or not. And I think I've decided that I like it better when I have a little bit of the red. I think what happens here is that this red carries over to the bottom half of the page. Now what I'm doing is I'm using the negative shapes that were left over from the cutouts that I made before. And I'm using them as you would a stencil in your jelly plate to see if this design becomes more interesting or stronger when I mask things off, you know. And this is something else that you can play with. You know, take a design that has a lot going on and just calm it down by creating a stencil that, you know, overlaps some of the other information. I mean, but this isn't really what I want. I want to have the same color red peeking out of this bottom shape. But yeah, I'm trying to move it a little bit here. But, you know, you can see the idea that really, you know, both your positives and your negatives, just as in printmaking, are really fun and interesting elements to add to your design, and can give you all kinds of new possibilities that you might not have thought about before. So I'm hoping that I gave you a few little interesting tidbits to think about, and I see you next week.